Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a brand new Night Court, where we take crime seriously, but not too seriously. I am your host, JT, here to help make sense of this week's legal battles, viral courtroom moments, and whatever else makes you shake your head in disbelief or, just sigh loudly at humanity. Now, today's show is packed tighter than an episode of Bones. We've got some true crime cases that are more twisted than a Twizzler, courtroom updates that will make you question if anyone has any idea what the hell is going on. But before that, let's get to the word of the street on the street. I don't know if you all heard, but there was a woman who allegedly stole 37 llamas from a petting zoo. That's right. 37 llamas. Now, that's not just a crime. That's a parade. What's truly baffling is that she tried to plead not guilty by reason of misunderstanding the adoption process. But really, it's like, come on, lady. Like, adopting a llama isn't like picking a puppy out of the shelter. Like, those things spit and they have opinions. Just a thought. Next, we have a case of a Florida man, because of course it is, facing charges for trying to pay his bar tab with Monopoly money. He told the cops he was just practicing for the big leagues. Well, sir, congratulations, because you've now earned yourself a go straight to jail card. So do not pass go and do not collect $200. Finally, and I think it's just the piece de la resistance, let's not forget a big one regarding the saga of the yoga con artist, right? This guy claimed to be a certified yoga instructor, but it turns out his certification was from the University of, trust me, bro. When questions about his credentials, he replied, I don't need a degree. I felt the vibes. Yeah, dude. The only vibes you are feeling now are the cold, hard ones of a jail cell. And you all can take that how you will. Well, we are a drunk squirrel in a corn maze tonight, and we've got twists, turns, and questionable decisions coming up. We are going to, in this new version of Night Court, break down the facts, separate the fiction, and most importantly, we'll try and keep a straight face through it all. So, grab your gavel, grab it tight, don't let go, and your popcorn, possibly your milk duds, because Night Court is in session. And this one, y'all, is going to be a doozy. So, let's get into it. So, today's brief, we're going to start with briefs, which are updates to cases. So, in today's brief, we start with the case of the alleged Long Island serial killer, also known as Lisk, Rex Heuermann, or man cosplaying as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Heuermann is currently being held at Suffolk County Jail without bail for the deaths of 6 women. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, oh, there's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man right there. Look at him. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello, Jessica Taylor, and Sandra Costilla. The investigation began when police were searching for Shannon Gilbert, a missing woman, in December of 2010. They found multiple sets of human remains instead, sparking a hunt for a serial killer. The discovery site became infamous as remains of at least 10 victims were found along Ocean Parkway. Some of the victims' bodies were dismembered and scattered. For years, the investigation stalled, with police struggling to identify a suspect. The case remained unsolved for over a decade, despite the intense media attention, scrutiny, and pressure. That county's police force was like the Taylor Swift of police forces. Suddenly, in July of 2023, Rex Heuermann, a Manhattan-based architect, was arrested and charged with the murders of Brainerd Barnes, Barthélemy, Waterman, and Costello, known as the Gilgo Four. In June of 2024, he was charged with 2 additional counts of murder for Taylor and Costilla. Heuermann, a successful architect with his own firm, lived in Massapequa Park, a Long Island suburb close to where the bodies were found. The arrest shocked the community, particularly since Heuermann had been living quietly in the area for many years without suspicion. But this did confirm those creepy neighbor vibes he'd give off, and I don't mean the just looking through the blinds of your windows. He was linked to the crimes through DNA evidence. Hair found on the victims matched Heuermann's family, leading to his identification. He allegedly used burner phones to contact the victims, who were sex workers, and arrange meetings with them. Cell phone data has placed him near the locations of the murders and where the bodies were dumped. And to be honest, that further proves that burner phones are about as good as an idea as handing someone on fire a marshmallow on a stick. Burner phones never go well. Despite the evidence, Rex Heuermann has pleaded not guilty to all charges and remains in custody awaiting trial. Like when you're waiting for your parents at the principal's office, except with Shanks. On September 16th, 2024, investigators asked for the public's help in identifying an Asian victim whose remains were discovered in 2011. The victim the investigators are referring to as Asian Doe was a biological male of Asian descent between the ages of 17 to 23, approximately 5 feet 6 inches tall, was wearing a blue-ribbed short-sleeved shirt, women's pants, and a bra. The victim is believed to have died in 2006 or earlier from blunt force trauma. A forensic artist examined the victim's skull to create images of what the victim may have looked like with both short and long hair. Anyone with information is being urged to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-220-TIP. A reward of up to $2,500 is being offered for information leading to the identification of Asian Doe. This is one time where it is just the tip. And it pays. So if you know anything, please call 1-800-220-TIP. Heuermann is scheduled to appear in front of a New York Supreme Court. Justice Timothy Matsai, who knows, he's Mats, on October 16th. And we here at Night Court will be keeping an eye out for any future developments. All right, now moving on to Alexee Trevizo. A New Mexican teenager is charged with murder after allegedly abandoning her newborn, Alex Fierro, in a hospital bathroom. Media took a strong hold on this case due to the extremely tragic circumstances surrounding the death of a newborn and the charges against such a young defendant. The incident took place in January 2023 when Trevizo went to an Artesia General Hospital emergency room complaining of back pain. Trevizo was examined and found to be in labor. However, she denied being pregnant to hospital staff at the time. Trevizo gave birth in the hospital bathroom. After the delivery, she reportedly concealed the newborn in a trash can, where the baby was later discovered by hospital staff. A hospital cleaning crew found the newborn wrapped in a trash bag inside the bathroom's trash can. The baby had died by the time it was discovered. The autopsy revealed that the newborn died from asphyxiation, as the baby had been placed in the trash bag and left to suffocate. Trevizo broke down in tears when the discovery of the baby was discussed during police questioning. But the prosecution claimed this was an attempt to evade responsibility. Several months later, on May 10th, 2023, she was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. tampering with evidence, and child abuse resulting in death. Prosecutors are arguing that Trevizo's actions were deliberate and that she had made a conscious decision to hide the baby after birth, resulting in the infant's death. Trevizo's defense team asserted that the teenager was panicked, overwhelmed, and did not understand the gravity of the situation. They emphasized her youth and emotional state during the birth. Alexee's family has stood by her, claiming she was a good student and had no prior history of criminal behavior or violent tendencies. But you can still be a good student and be a bad person, right? I mean, anyone who has ever seen literally any coming of age movie from the 80s could tell you that. Her lawyer has filed a lawsuit against Artesia General Hospital, if you could believe it, for the wrongful death of the infant, saying that the hospital's negligence and the medication used are ultimately to blame for the newborn's death. That revelation simply blows me away. Video footage and hospital records play a key role in this case, showing the timeline of events and Trevizo's behavior while in the hospital. However, the judge in the case ruled that all comments allegedly made by Trevizo in the presence of hospital staff, as well as all video footage of her taken inside the medical facility, would not be admissible during trial. This was supposed to go to trial at the end of August this year, but at this time, as we know, the case has now been vacated, and prosecutors have decided not to move forward until a decision from the New Mexico Supreme Court comes down regarding the legality of the video evidence. The Supreme Court has not yet set a date for hearing this appeal, but it is not expected until 2025. If the Supreme Court sides with the prosecution, then a new trial date would likely be set in the case. But if the initial order from the judge stands in this case, it's unlikely that prosecutors would have enough evidence to try Trevizo for murder. And to that I say, it's fucking insane. Moving on to somebody else that we've all heard a lot about recently, Richard Allen. Jury selection is expected to begin on October 14th. In the case of Indiana v. Richard Allen, one of the most controversial cases of the last few years, and boy, have there been some of them, is that of the murders of 13-year-old Abigail Abby Williams and 14-year-old Liberty Libby German, known to many as the Delphi murders. The two young girls were found murdered on February 14th, 2017, after disappearing the previous day while hiking near Monon High Bridge in Delphi, Indiana. Their bodies were discovered about half a mile from the trail where they had last been seen. Details about the exact nature of the crime were withheld from the public. Libby managed to capture a brief video and audio recording of a man approaching them on her phone, including the now infamous phrase, "Guys down the hill." For years, investigators released sketches of potential suspects, but no arrests were made. The video and audio recording remained central to the investigation. The small community of Delphi was devastated by the murders, leading to a large-scale public outcry and calls for justice. It also attracted national media coverage due to the mysterious circumstances and the fact that the killer remained at large for many years. In October of 2022, a man named Richard Allen, a Delphi resident of many years and a CVS employee, was arrested and charged with the murders of Abby and Libby. It is believed that Allen was near the trail on the day of the murders, but his connection to the victims remains unclear. The arrest of Allen followed the discovery of additional evidence, including possible ballistic links between a gun owned and a bullet found at the crime scene. Richard Allen has pleaded not guilty to the charges, and his defense team continues to question the evidence linking him to the crime. Investigators hinted at the possibility of other individuals being involved or aware of the crime, although no further arrests have been made. Many court documents, though, were initially sealed, frustrating the public and the media, but some were later unsealed to provide more details. This case has involved numerous hearings and motions for continuances to determine the admissibility of evidence, including the video, audio, and forensic findings. This case has also divided much of the online community as to Allen's guilt and if he is receiving a fair trial and treatment. Many, including the defense, believe that Judge Gall should recuse herself. Quote, despite having the report since June 20th, 2023, the motion states, to this day, Judge Gall has failed to admonish the sheriff's office for filing a report that contains such a flagrant falsehood and which is arguably an attempt to cover up their illegal actions in ignoring a valid defense subpoena. On Wednesday, October 16th, I am going to actually be reading a very interesting motion from the defense that raises some interesting theories about potential other suspects, Odinism, and white supremacy, which is a combo that is sure to cause us more or as much indigestion as a combo at Taco Bell. I promise. So be sure to tune in to the transcripts on Wednesday, the 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Jury selection is in just over a week on October 14th. And although this is not a televised trial, we are going to be covering what we can extensively in the next several weeks. Moving on to a case that happened that has just been added by producer and assistant producer. Thank you for this. But Shawn Stines, the Letcher County community, and others nationwide are left looking for answers as to what led up to a Kentucky judge being shot and killed, with the then sheriff behind bars and charged with murder. On September 19th, Letcher County Sheriff Shawn Stines shot District Judge Kevin Mullins multiple times following an argument in the courthouse. Mullins, 54, died at the scene, and Stines, 43, surrendered without incident. Here is a timeline of what we know so far. Sheriff Stines was deposed on September 16th in a lawsuit filed by two women, one of whom alleged that former Letcher County Deputy Sheriff Ben Fields forced her to have sex inside Judge Mullins' chambers for 6 months in exchange for staying out of jail. The lawsuit accuses the sheriff of deliberate indifference in failing to adequately train and supervise the deputy. Sheriff Stines fired Deputy Fields for conduct unbecoming after the lawsuit was filed in 2022. In 2024, disgraced Deputy Field pleaded guilty to third-degree rape, third-degree sodomy, 2 counts of tampering with a prisoner monitoring device, and second-degree perjury. You know, the typical sheriff accessories. He was sentenced to 6 months in jail with 6.5 years on probation. On September 19th, Judge Mullins and Sheriff Stines reportedly had a lunch meeting along with several other people. A witness said the judge was overheard asking the sheriff at lunch if they needed to meet privately in his chambers. A 20-second surveillance video shows Sheriff Stines sitting in front of the judge's desk. He uses his phone to call someone and then borrows Judge Mullins' phone to make a call. Both of these calls were made to the sheriff's daughter, whose number was saved in Mullins' phone. Moments after the calls were made, the video shows the sheriff standing from his chair and proceeding to point a gun at the judge. Mullins can be seen putting both hands up shortly before Stines appears to shoot at him multiple times. Mullins falls to the ground and manages to crawl under the desk, and Stines, on his way out the door, appears to fire at him multiple times. The sheriff was taken to the Leslie County Detention Center and charged with first-degree murder. On September 22nd, community members, friends, and family gathered to say their final goodbyes to Judge Kevin Mullins. Mullins was said to be dedicated to mental health advocacy and assisting those in recovery from substance abuse. On September 25th, Sheriff Stines appeared before a judge and entered a plea of not guilty to the first-degree murder charge, which could be punishable by 20 to life in prison, with the possibility of the death penalty. He's seen the video from the judge's office, right? The same day, Governor Bashar formally requested that Stines resign from his position as a Letcher County Sheriff by the end of the day, September 27th. The following Monday, Stines announced his retirement in a letter from his newly acquired attorney, Jeremy A. Bartley. It states that Stines, quote, made the difficult decision to effect his retirement. It goes on to say the decision is made not as a result of any ultimatum or in any way as a concession to any allegation made by the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Rather, Sheriff Stines has made this decision to allow for a successor to continue to protect his beloved constituents while he addresses the legal process ahead of him. A preliminary hearing on October 1st took place in West Liberty, Kentucky, nearly 100 miles from Letcher County Courthouse, where Mullins was killed. The state appointed a special judge to preside over the case, since Judge Mullins normally would preside over preliminary hearings for crimes allegedly committed in Letcher County. The hearing revealed some new details about what led to the deadly shooting. According to Detective Stamper, witnesses in the next room told investigators they couldn't overhear what led to the argument between the two men, but reportedly heard gunshots and Judge Mullins pleading for help. Stamper said Stines was in custody when he arrived at the courthouse. His demeanor was described as mostly calm, and the sheriff told him, quote, treat me fair. Stines reportedly told officers as they were taking him into custody, quote, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid. Search warrants were issued for both Mullins's and Stines' phones and were sent for forensic examination. But investigators said they had yet to receive the results. Detectives interviewed the sheriff's daughter with a parent present. Her phone has not yet been obtained. A woman employed by the Letcher County Sheriff's Office voluntarily gave her phone to investigators to be examined. She was reportedly one of the sheriff's employees, was present at the September 19th lunch, and received text messages from Stines regarding things that led to the shooting. The phone was also sent for forensic examination. Stines' defense attorney argued that the charges against Stines should be amended down to manslaughter due to Detective Stamper's testimony that claimed there was no evidence to show the shooting was planned and was the result of extreme emotional disturbance. The prosecution objected to this motion, which ultimately sustained because Mullins was not believed to be armed at the time of the shooting. Judge Rupert Wilhoit found probable cause to refer the first-degree murder charge to a grand jury. We will, of course, continue following this case and give you any updates as it develops. Well, that does it for the brief today. It's time to get into the meat of the episode. A deep dive into the case of Sarah Boone, which we bring to you in Case in Chief. We're diving into the bizarre and literally twisted case of Florida v. Sarah Boone, which is one of the most anticipated trials of the year. It's the court-watching version of edging. So close, take it away. So close, take it away. Jury selection does start tomorrow, October 7th, however, and there are more plot twists here than a soap opera, more drama than an award show scuffle. Here's looking at you, Big Willie style. And it's got all of us watching like it's the new season of Law and Order, Samsonite. Tonight, our story takes us to Winter Park, Florida, where seemingly ordinary day turned into an American horror story. Sarah Boone, a 42-year-old woman with a troubled past, had been in a tumultuous relationship with Jorge Torres for quite some time. Friends described their relationship as volatile, marked by frequent arguments and reconciliations. Like, trying to heat up the same cup of coffee all day, being frustrated it burned your mouth each time, but still continuing on. The two had a history of domestic violence that was usually fueled by alcohol. George, a 42-year-old father, was known for his love of music and family, but his life took a tragic turn when he crossed paths with Sarah. On February 24th, 2020.
This is the police or medical?
Oh no, hit it.
My boyfriend is dead.
No, tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I put him in his case and we were playing. And like kind of hide and seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep and I woke up and he was dead in the suitcase. So I don't know what happened. Yes, like he has like blood coming out of his mouth, and I don't know if like he had like an aneurysm or like what happened.
Right, okay, all right, okay. Listen, we're getting help out there too.
Ooh, she called 911 February 24th, 2020 to report that her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, had died inside a suitcase. You heard that right. A suitcase. The 911 call she made that you just heard was haunting, and she sounded more confused than distressed. When police arrived, Boone told them that the two of them had been drinking the night before, and that they had been playing a game of hide and seek, which ended with George willingly climbing into a suitcase. However, what followed was a dark twist. Sarah allegedly left him trapped inside for hours, only discovering he was dead the next morning. She claimed she thought he could get himself out, and so she went upstairs, fell asleep, and forgot he was inside the suitcase until, she woke up the next morning. Law enforcement had a challenging task. Was this a tragic accident, as Boone claimed, or a premeditated act? Sarah agreed to go with them down to the police station for an interview. In her 2-hour interrogation, Boone would claim that it was an accident and repeatedly mentioned that it was unintentional, that she was unaware of George's distress and that she had left him in the suitcase as a joke. I mean, listen, I've heard of dark humor, but not like this, Sarah. You misunderstood the assignment. However, during the investigation, detectives discovered 2 videos on Boone's phone. These videos would provide damning evidence that were crucial to the case. We're going to watch clips of both of these videos. Please be advised that these videos may be triggering. Now, the first video the detectives find shows Torres inside the suitcase, clearly distressed and calling Sarah's name, telling her that he couldn't breathe. Boone can be heard taunting him by laughing and saying things like, "That's what you get for choking me." Now, I can't say that's the equivalent, but who am I to pass judgment? So just see for yourself.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah. I can't breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
Sarah.
Oh. Now, the second video taken later, you can still hear George calling Sarah's name, pleading with her. What's more interesting is that this video shows the suitcase in a different position, which indicates that it had to have been moved, flipped over even, most likely by Sarah herself. And here it is.
Sarah.
Man. After watching the police interview, it seems very clear that Sarah believes she didn't do anything wrong and would most likely be going home. Based on the evidence, Boone was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The charge was predicated on the belief that Boone's actions demonstrated a depraved mind, which is one way of saying it, and quite the understatement, and a disregard for human life, rather than premeditated intent. An autopsy was done on Jorge Torres. He was found with injuries consistent with blunt force trauma, including bruises on his shoulder, forehead, and lip, which those weren't immediately explained by Boone's version of events. The autopsy also revealed that Torres died from positional asphyxia, meaning he was unable to breathe properly due to the position of his body inside the suitcase. This finding supported the theory that his death was not accidental, but rather a result of being intentionally confined. Now, Boone has repeatedly claimed that the death of Jorge Torres was an accident. She maintains that she did not intend to harm him, and that what happened was a tragic mistake. She often describes herself as being misunderstood and wrongfully accused, and she whines incessantly that everyone's minds will change when they hear the truth. Now, normally in cases, we tend not to hear anything from the defendant once they are arrested and are in jail. But that's not the case with Sarah. Sarah has written a couple dozen letters to the court. And thanks to Florida's Sunshine Law, they've been made public. We're not going to go over all of those tonight. Please, not again. Please. But if you are interested in hearing about them or any of the other videos where we've discussed this, please check out the other show, The Transcript, where I cover all of Sarah's letters and body cam footage. This week, we'll be watching her interrogation extensively, and it's in its entirety, and that's Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Sarah Boone's letters serve as a window into her personal narrative from hell, and could play a significant role in the legal proceedings, depending on how they are used by both the prosecution and the defense. She has used her letters to complain about the conditions in jail, expressing dissatisfaction with her treatment and the environment, sometimes framing it as part of a broader injustice she's facing. The majority of the letters she directly addresses legal authorities or the court, criticizing the way her case is being handled, expressing frustration with the legal process, delays in her trial, and what she perceives as a lack of fairness. She has a question mark over her head, so she says, and she wants to do anything else that she can to get it to go away. Knowing that these letters are available to the public, she has also used this opportunity to reach out for support, whether from friends, family, or others. On numerous occasions, she has asked for help to prove her innocence, asking for character references or other forms of assistance that could aid in her defense. And to some degree, she has been successful. In June of 2024, after her eighth lawyer had withdrawn from her case, and the judge refused to appoint any more public defenders to her case, he ordered that she either find a private lawyer or go pro se, meaning represent herself at trial. On July 18th, 2024, Sarah wrote another of her infamous letters, but this time it included an advertisement seeking an attorney to represent her, and it reads, "Inmate seeks attorney. Looking for a prosperous challenge? Ready for your close-up on national television? Are you zealous with a side of keen? Show the world who you are with your original creativity, extraordinary expertise, and confident ingenuity. Qualifications must include being trustworthy, honest, passion-driven, open-minded, exceptional problem-solving skills, client inclusion at all times, team orientation, collaboration, extreme efficiency in listening, communicating, understanding, dedication to success, possessing a winning mindset, capability of excellence in representation, committed, maintaining faith in the client, and a case with the ability to think differently, overcome all circumstances. Epic opportunity awaits. Invest in the oppressed. Believe. Many believed this Hail Mary attempt would not be fruitful, and reasonably so. What attorney would sign on a murder case with a trial date set in 2.5 months? Well, in late August of this year, Sarah prevailed and retained herself a pro bono attorney, James Owens, making him her 9th. Her new attorneys plan to argue that Sarah suffered from battered wife syndrome, more recently referred to as intimate partner violence, or IPV, and that this was an act of self-defense. This news shocked Judge Kranick, who paused after confirming, "Are you claiming self-defense?" Well, that's the first time I've heard that. And honestly, y'all, that is the judicial version of the fuck. Owens has retained 2 experts to testify on Boone's behalf to say that she suffered from battered spouse syndrome, one of whom recently testified for Marcia Thompson, who was acquitted of murdering her husband based on the same defense. With many self-defense cases, it is highly likely that Sarah herself will have to take the stand and tell her story to the world. And even though the world has had a glimpse into her psyche through her numerous letters over the last several years, hearing what happened from Sarah's own mouth is something that everyone is eagerly anticipating. Most of all, Sarah. Jury selection begins again tomorrow morning, October 7th, with the trial expecting to take 2 to 3 weeks. We will be covering this case extensively, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. The links are in the description below, so you don't want to miss any of our Sarah Boone updates. We also will be streaming it in the Courtyard Discord as well, so check that out using the invite link that will show up in the chat. So my question for you all is, what do you think about Sarah Boone? Thoughts? I'm going to go and look through the comments. It's my favorite. Her hair and makeup team should make a difference. You can put lipstick on, never mind. She gonna have Skittles lipstick. Correct. It is. It's a high school play audition flyer. There is no doubt about that. I guess my other question for you is, do you believe her claim of self-defense and battered wife syndrome? I would go with narcissistic psychopath for sure. There is definitely that going on. And then I guess the next question is, do you think Sarah is going to take the stand? What do you think about that? Do you think the jury will find her guilty or not guilty? I do agree, Lady in Gray. I think she and George were both a mess. For sure. For sure. Everybody says, guilty, 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 guilty. And yes, Nan, he was arrested for abuse. It was there was a mutuality. There was a duality to that. And that's not right either. But yes. However, zipping somebody up in a suitcase. I don't know. I put on a tie and I become Rodney Dangerfield. I get no respect. Oh, man. Now, listen, for those of you who are here, feel free to continue to put your stuff, your answers and things in the chat. I will also put up these questions in a community post on the YouTube page, so you can answer those there in the comments as well. I think that would be fun to see what you all think. But also, for those of you in the replay crew, We want to hear what you have to say as well, so please leave your answers and comments about the case in the comments section below. Now, here at Night Court, we never want to leave you all with something unresolved. So we have a final segment that we like to call Just Desserts. Robert Tells, a 47-year-old former Clark County public administrator and man auditioning for pool table cue ball, was on trial in August for the September 2022 murder of Las Vegas investigative journalist Jeff German. German had published several reports alleging misconduct by Tells in his office, including accusations of creating a hostile work environment and that he carried on an inappropriate relationship with a staffer. In part of those articles, Tells lost his bid for re-election in a Democratic primary in June of 2022. German was found dead with stab wounds outside his home. Prosecutors alleged Tells killed German because he was angry about the reporter's articles and was concerned about another upcoming article. Their case focused on surveillance video from German's neighborhood on the day of the killing, showing a suspect wearing a large sun hat, orange jacket, and gray Nike sneakers and driving a maroon SUV. To which I say, are we sure it wasn't RuPaul? The suspect hid in the bushes on the side of German's house, waited for the reporter to arrive home and fatally stab him, and then he left him to die. The maroon SUV belonged to Tells, and he was later seen washing the vehicle in front of his house. In a search warrant of Tells' house, police found a large sun hat and Nike sneakers that had been cut into pieces and hidden. And no one had seen shoes shredded like that since the opening scene of Jumanji. It's a deep cut, but if you get it, you get it. Further, DNA from under German's fingernails was consistent with Tells' DNA. Investigators also examined Tells' phone and found images from Google Maps of German's house, one time in which the accidental screenshot is a positive and doesn't force you to delete it. Prosecutor Christopher Hamner said in his rebuttal, quote, "He murdered him because Jeff's writing destroyed his career. It destroyed his reputation. It probably threatened his marriage and exposed things that even he admitted he did not want the public to know. He did it because Jeff wasn't done writing." The old George R.R. Martin defense doesn't work. Defense attorney Robert Draskovich focused the defense on challenging the quality of the investigation and argued that there was a lack of evidence. DNA under the fingernails, maybe? He said that investigators didn't... Can I get my voice any higher? Under the fingernails, maybe? He said that investigators did not find German's blood on any of Tells' items and questioned the damage to the hat and shoes. The defense's argument was that Tells had been framed for the death because he was trying to make changes in his political office that upset the old guard. Strike the Martin defense. We're going to go with the Gotham City defense. Tells, who is a trained lawyer, took the stand and testified in a narrative style, meaning he spoke without being questioned by his own attorney. He offered up the conspiracy that a real estate company had hired an assassin to kill the reporter and then frame him. To that I say, you're not that special, dude, but if you're going to talk about an assassin, it's clear you're going with the Deadpool defense now. Tells said on the day of the killing, he was at home watching TV before going for a walk and heading to the gym. He showed a phone log of his activities that day, saying there was nothing suspicious about it. Quote, "I did not cut up a shoe and hide it under my couch. I did not cut up a hat and put it in an open door of my toolbox. I did not kill Mr. German," he said. He also said, "I do not like them with a fox. I do not like them in a box. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere." That wasn't in the script, but that's how it sounded. I want to say, quote, he said, quote, "I want to say unequivocally, I am innocent. I didn't kill Mr. German. Well, the jury felt differently and sentenced Tells to life in prison with eligibility of parole after a minimum of 20 years. They found the murder was, quote, willful, deliberate, and premeditated, and it was carried out by lying in wait. Oh, look at him. Just. Tells requested an evidentiary hearing to question the jury to determine if a judge violated his rights when a jury told her it was deadlocked. Several jurors have spoken out about their private deliberations, which spanned 3 days. Juror number 6 said that the jury told Judge Michelle Levitt that it was deadlocked at a crucial point in its deliberations. Quote, we informed the judge that it was 11-1. We're a hung jury, and every jury wants to be hung. They always say that. And the marshal came back and informed us what the judge said was to keep working. A hearing was held on October 2nd, to which the evidentiary hearing was denied. Judge Levitt will sentence Tells October 16th on enhancements regarding his charges, such as the fact that he used a deadly weapon and that German was older than 60 years old. Now we're going to move on to Carly Gregg. Carly Gregg was 14 years old and most certainly a future Karen, and murdered her mother, Ashley Smiley, and attempted to murder her 39-year-old stepfather, Heath Smiley. She pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity and was tried as an adult last month. On the morning of March 19th, 2024, Carly and her mother rode together to school where Carly was a student and Ashley was a teacher. While at school, Gregg got into an altercation with one of her friends who was, quote, so worried about Carly's marijuana use that he felt he needed to intervene. He sent an email to her mother, Ashley, describing what he knew. After arriving back at the house, Ashley found and took away 4 boxes that contained vape pens. Sometime after, Gregg allegedly shot her mother with a .357 Magnum gun she was concealing behind her back. Gregg then called a friend who came over to the house. Carly then allegedly asked the friend if they were squeamish around dead bodies before showing the friend her mother's deceased body. I don't think that was exactly the hangout that the friend was looking for. In the prosecution's opening statement, Catherine Newman began painting a picture to the jury about Gregg's 007 secret life, including a boyfriend, a secret phone, social media accounts, and self-harm. On day 1 of the trial, a 911 call made on the day of the shooting was played in the courtroom. On the 911 call, Heath, her stepfather, can be heard sounding hysterical and frantic, saying Carly shot him and killed her mother. In the audio, Heath can be heard saying, God, why? And she killed her mother. Olivia Lever, an expert witness for the state and a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, said she first met with Gregg in January of 2024, at which time Gregg completed a form checking she didn't hear voices. Lever later said she met with Carly for the last time on March 12th, a week before the shootings. At that appointment, a medication switch occurred after Gregg complained of feeling, quote, like a zombie. She said that she told Carly to taper off the Zoloft she was taking while starting on a new medication, Lexapro. According to the NP, Carly never reported hearing voices or having lapses in her memory. Another witness, Rebecca Kirk, a licensed professional counselor who met with Carly 9 times before the shootings, said that in the months leading up to the murder, both Carly and her mother reported that Carly was having intrusive and disruptive thoughts, was easily angered, and was having trouble sleeping. But Carly denied hearing voices. Dr. Jason Pickett, a forensic psychiatrist, also testified in court regarding his task to perform a mental evaluation of Gregg by using the Monotone rule. a legal standard test of insanity. As part of his 85-page report, Pickett analyzed Carly's writing and statements that seemed to him theatrical and others concerning. He cited a text message dated February 7th when Carly told a friend, quote, "You don't understand how fucking psycho I was that day. I almost murdered my parents." Pretty sure we've all texted things we don't want people to read, but... On the stand, Dr. Pickett said that his opinion was that Carly does not meet Mississippi's standard for insanity at the time of the offense, and that she knew the nature, quality, and wrongfulness of her actions during that day. Dr. Andrew Clark, an expert witness for the defense and a child and adolescent psychiatrist, testified that Carly's struggle with depression, she had a struggle with depression and anxiety. He said that her journal entries and a sketchbook revealed an interest with, quote, dark themes. During Clark's testimony, he revealed that at the age of 4, Carly had a sister who died. Carly started hearing voices and having intrusive thoughts, one symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder. When she was 11 or 12, she began self-harming herself by making superficial cuts in her thigh. Dr. Clark said that was not in an effort to kill herself, but to cope with her depression and anxiety. He read aloud in the courtroom a journal entry written on March 12th, a week before the incident. Quote, "I think I had a psychotic break earlier. The whole ordeal is quite silly. I actually spoke with one of the voices in my head. Well, I didn't hear them until earlier today, but I only do then. My particular friend and I were practically screaming bloodthirstily and ravenously. Thank God, physical confrontation was not possible. I sound crazy." He said he believes the Lexapro, combined with Gregg's history of mental health issues and upbringing, led to the violent outburst, which he said Gregg doesn't remember due to her memory going blank at the time of the shootings. Quote, "Her memory came back as she was standing by the side of the road, having crawled out of the drainage pipe, and the police officer came by and picked her up," Clark testified. This sounds a lot more like Clark really finishing it off with a flourish and left you with the entire backstory of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Crawling out of the pipe, huh? Heath, Carly's stepfather and victim, was called by the state to testify. He said he remembered arriving at home when a gun fired near his face. After the first shot, he recalls a struggle to remove a .357 Magnum from Carly's hand. He eventually was able to gain possession of the weapon. To be honest with you, he's a regular old Captain America. That's a crazy situation. He said he was never scared of Carly before the shooting, and he is still not scared of Carly. Quote, "She's just a sweet little girl," he said. Sweet like candy or antifreeze, because one's definitely going to kill you. The prosecution's closing argument focused on making one thing clear about Gregg. Quote, "She knew what she did," simultaneously making a point and making Gen Z viewers felt seen. Prosecutor Michael Smith referred to home security footage located in the kitchen of the home, which showed Gregg peeking around the corner, going to retrieve a .357 Magnum revolver, and heading to her own bedroom where she fires off 3 shots that killed Ashley. Quote, "Ladies and gentlemen, there's no doubt Carly Madison Gregg is the one who killed her mom, Ashley Smiley. There's no doubt that she attempted to kill Heath Smiley. When she aimed the gun right at his head and shot and hit him. And there's no doubt that she's the one who hid the cameras, thus tampering with evidence. We would ask that you go back there and you find her guilty on all 3, because she was not insane at the time this happened. She knew exactly what she was doing and knew the difference between right and wrong." During the defense closing arguments, the attorneys Bridget Todd and Kevin Camp asked for the jury to consider that Gregg was reaching out for help. when she was experiencing a mental health crisis. Todd noted many truths she believed had been undisputed since the trial began. Some of those truths were that Gregg loved her mom, loved her stepdad, and had no history of violence. Quote, if Carly intended to kill her mom because her mom found out she was smoking pot, then why wouldn't she have left the house after she killed her mom? Why not run? Why call all of her good friends asking for help, terrified and crying, saying she couldn't tell them what happened? Why text her stepdad anything? Why wait in the house? And what did her stepdad have to do with anything? He didn't know about the marijuana usage. He didn't have any skin in the game. It doesn't make sense. And the state can't tell you why she did any of those things. But they have to prove it to you beyond a reasonable doubt, Todd said. A lot of questions. I guess if you ask like 15 questions, that equals creating reasonable doubt. The jury, composed of 8 women and 4 men, deliberated for 2 hours before handing down the guilty verdict, indicating that they had enough to convict and... Yep, 2 hours. You ever just read a joke on a piece of paper that you're like, that's not going to work out? That was the moment. I'm just not a pro at it yet. Before the jury was sent back for the next step in deliberating on sentencing, prosecutor Catherine Newman asked the jury to sentence Gregg, her to life in prison without parole, stating Carly had shown zero remorse about what she had done. While defense attorney Kevin Camp asked the jury to let the judge make the determination for sentencing, stating, quote, you have the opportunity to make this worse on the family. For 1 hour, the jury deliberated on the sentencing of Gregg. She was then sentenced to life in prison for the murder of her mother and the attempted murder of her stepfather. Gregg was also sentenced to serve 10 years in prison for tampering with evidence, with the sentences running concurrently. Carly had previously turned down a plea deal offered by the prosecution that would have sent her to prison for 40 years. So, there you have that. When the guilty verdict and sentencing was read, she broke down in tears. Her family sitting inside the courtroom, her stepfather Heath, her mother, Ashley's parents, and other relatives appeared to mouth words of encouragement to the team. Whew. Well, that was a whirlwind, huh? Let's move into closing arguments. You know, tonight's episode was a wild one for the first one, huh? Full of deception, drama, and just a sprinkle of what in the world were they thinking? But if there's one thing we've learned this episode, it's that people are more unpredictable than Kim Kardashian on her 3rd shot of tequila. At the end of the day, whether you're out there making life decisions or, hiding bodies in bizarre places, which we do not recommend, it's always important to remember choices have consequences. And sometimes consequences, they just don't land you in hot water. They land you right here on Night Court. Now, if you enjoyed tonight's episode, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment down below and follow us on social media for more updates during the week and behind the scenes content. Be sure to tune in next week where we cover the hottest true crime and trial updates, and we are also going to take a deep dive during the case in chief into the case of Indiana v. Richard Allen. I am JT, and I'll see you all next Sunday at 8 p.m. for another episode of Night Court. Until then, stay safe out there and shine on, you night owls. Shine